Hermes and Open Claw. I'm not sure what you call them. Monty can explain that to you in a minute. But we've been installing both of them, and we'd like to share with you our experiences. And as usual, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Monty, welcome to the show, and tell us what you've been doing.
Wayne Bucklar, it's good to see you again. I remember in the past, I had sent you a document about Open Claw because I'd actually purchased one online from an advisor, and I sent it to you. And in your modest way, you went through a couple of weeks of installing that and getting it up and running, and using an old Mac Mini and getting it all up and running. And then I decided to try to emulate that using CoWork from Claude, unsuccessfully, I might add. I mean, I got CoWork and Claude working, but not to the agent independence where you could do what you were doing with Open Claw and building all your different agents and everything else. You called something like harnesses. I tried to Google it, and it said AI agent frameworks or Hermes agent Open Claw. So I, honest to God, don't know what a good term is for what it is they are.
So what we're talking about here is not the models, which are Claude and DeepSeek and so on and so forth. And these are provided by what I would call maybe platforms. This is, Anthropic and OpenAI, and they're the people who build and sell the models. These are independent, standalone pieces of software which do some stuff, but their intelligence comes from using one of those models in the background. So there are a bunch of these on the market. The first one really was Open Claw, that only came out in like January of this year, and became, I think I've got it right, the fastest growing user base of open source AI in the history of the world. And so, and with it came some security scares and full of trepidation. I did put it on a Mac Mini. I did isolate it on its own network. I did not share any of my passwords or anything on that machine. It was all done clean, and I was worried. But took me a few days. It's now been, I think it's been a month and a half, maybe 7 weeks since I started this journey. Yes. And it's doing some pretty cool stuff. And I now trust it a whole lot more than I did before. So basically, this is basically an AI model that has hands. And by having hands, I mean it can do stuff on the machine it's installed on. So yes, it can turn on and off pretty much every feature on the Mac. It can download stuff and install stuff and do all that. And it was a frustrating couple of days because I had one laptop beside me with AI on it telling me what to do. I had the document that Monty mentioned that he sent me, which was a guide to installing it. And I had the Mac Mini on the other side typing stuff in. And let me tell you, when you make a mistake in an API key and you have to retype it 3 or 4 times, and every time you get the wrong thing, you can't just go back in that installer I was using. You have to start the installer again. That's what taught me the steps of the installer over and over, and that's what took so long. Anyway, we got it up and working. Monty, meanwhile, has had 2 experiences, as have I. I've got Hermes running as well, but we'll come back to that. Monty decided that he could achieve the same thing with Claude's CoWork, and it looked really positive. I agree with him. If CoWork had been around with the utility it's got now when I started with Open Claw, I don't know whether I would have ever started with Open Claw. But having worked with Monty as we've gone through that, I think maybe I would have. But in any case, this is AI WTF, not what you're thinking of. It's
wisdom, technology, and friends.
It's the weekly podcast of 2 old farts who can still type and have been around since you had to light the fire every morning under your computer to get the steam up before you could start it. So tell us what it was like with your experience with CoWork, Monty.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the benefit of you having spent that 4 to 6 weeks in advance meant that you were kind enough with using one of your tools, which is called Jake, and I was able to get access to your Jake and WhatsApp, and Jake shared with me a lot of the props and the were the MD files. That's the right word.
Markdown files, MD files, and
Yeah.
Jake, by the way, is the Open Claw installation. All of my agents have names because that way I can talk to them and abuse them just like they were staff.
Yes. Well, fortunately, and with controls, you mentioned it, made, and you can probably do that more. I had access to Jake, but more importantly, I had access to you, and you gave me the prompts that you used for all sorts of different things. So when it came time to put those into an MD document for myself, I basically used your initial framework. So I had an account with Claude. It was, I think, maybe a pro level, which allowed me to have Claude work and Claude code. Now, I wasn't interested in the code, but I was interested in co-work. So I had co-work, I had the knowledge files, and as you say, it now is able, which it wasn't. This, by the way, that a lot of the Claude functions I was able to use, or co-work functions, only became available in the last few weeks.
Yep.
So it can write to my desktop. It can create files, as they say, or you would say. It had hands. It could do work. It could get stuff done. So I thought, if it can get stuff done, and I don't need to. I do have a Mac. My Mac Mini and my MacBook Air is what I'm using for this conversation, and that's my main computer. So I thought, okay, let me see if I can get co-work installed, and I did. And oh boy, are you right about API keys. And whenever you request one, it's make sure you copy this and put it in a safe place because you'll never see it again. And then you got to ask for another one, and on it went. But I was able to link it to, and because of your confidence with your interactions with some services that weren't on your Mac Mini, I felt reasonably confident to either use an MCP to talk to some things or an API to access my Google Drive, to access my Xero accounting, to access my Gmail. And so I've been playing with that. But fortunately, because of your prompts, you wrote prompts that said if you're writing an email and it's one that it had determined was significant and required your input, you had in your prompt, don't send this without me approving it in advance. And that's a very important thing. You've also been training me on how to work with the AIs, not to tell me how to do something, which is what I was doing, and told me to tell them to do it, which is a mind shift change from, it'll give you step-by-steps. Here's what you do, and go here and get your API. I'm like, no, you just go do it, and then it will do it. So there's a lot of lessons learned, and I owe them to you for having blazed that trail, which is less than 2 months, but more than 4 weeks. That's how quickly the world is changing.
Yeah, I used to work as an academic once upon a time, and this is the experience where, as the professor, you're one chapter in front of the students. Like it's not like you've read the whole book. You're just a little bit in front. Not that I would ever have done that as a professor, of course. But anyway, thank God I don't work in that sector anymore. Not that I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it, but teaching you is a lot different to teaching a classroom of 40 or 50 MBA students. So we have had these experiences, and that's what we're sharing with you. I should just mention, for those of you who haven't read chapter 1 of the book yet, things that we didn't know a month ago, MCP that Monty mentioned is a model context protocol, and they tell AI how to do things, and they exist on servers and you can access them. An API is an application programmer interface, And for those of you people out there who are modern day techs, and I've got them wrong, my apologies, but that's what I like to call them anyway. And they are ways to connect your AI to other things. That's what we're talking about. And yes, both of us have had our thrills and adventures with that. One of the problems that I had, because I didn't let my Mac Mini talk to anything else, including to Google, so I didn't have anything on my Windows machines that I could cut and paste onto the Mac machine. You know, you can't cut and paste between two machines. So that kind of drove me nuts, and I don't recommend anyone does that. I do recommend, if you're going to follow something, have it on the same machine that you're trying to install on. That will make your life a lot easier. It took me a little while to figure that out, and a lot of iterations. Now, Monty's recently, we both still have Claude Cowork, by the way. We're both still using it. But,
Yes.
But that's, for me at least, that's really about the costs involved, because it's much cheaper to use Anthropic's Claude models on a monthly subscription than it is by buying tokens for them, which is what you have to do. You have to connect the model to your Hermes or to your Open Claw, and it's much cheaper to use Claude on the desktop for some stuff, and to use the others for different things. So, Monty, you haven't abandoned Cowork, but you've lashed out and downloaded Hermes. Tell us about that. Why did you do that?
Well, yeah, I still, like we said, we both have agents that live on
Desktop.
No. Yeah, they live on desktop, but we have agents that are run by OpenAI.
Yes.
You built one and I built one, and we're really happy with those. They're easy to share and people can use them, and they're not expensive. My Claude experience or Cowork experience was frustrating at best. It was getting new features and it could do things. But again, the reason why I mentioned the MCPs is because one of the tools that both of us has used in the past is called HeyGen, which is a video generation tool with avatars and voice, and it's very polished and it works very well. When I tried to have prompts that came out of Cowork to do that, it was struggling. And even though I was able to configure an MCP, it was using my API, and it was chewing up money unbelievably. And again, my thanks to you, I realized that I had to top up Claude or Cowork because it was using up a lot of tokens and money going in and out. So I downgraded some of my models because I'm not doing PhD studies nor high complex mathematical or physics. I was doing simpler tasks than that, so I didn't need the more expensive models. And again, as a recommendations from you, I migrated that to DeepSeek, and now I'm spending a couple bucks a week where I was being topped up $10 USD in a day. So it became a lot less expensive and more effective for me. But I had heard the same thing, just like Open Claw went from like nothing to the most popular AI platform in the world. I all of a sudden, as you and I both follow other people in the AI space, I found a guy that said, hey, you ought to try Hermes. Now, two things. One, I thought he was he's also as a professor and like you were, but he speaks with a certain amount of clarity and not a marketing shtick. So I thought, well, Hermes is good. And you had told me that you had built Hermes to run in parallel with your Open Claw. And they talk to each other, they share knowledge bases, they share all sorts of stuff. And I thought that was pretty clever. So I thought, well, you've gone down. So I asked Cowork, walk me through the steps to install Hermes. And I would say you spent days. I got it done in 2 3-hour sessions over a weekend, 3 hours on a Saturday and 3 hours on Sunday. And I now have Hermes running on my machine. But my limit is,
I can go you one better than that. When I installed Hermes, I said to Jake, my Open Claw personality,
Yeah.
can you install Hermes on the Mac Mini? And it said yes. I said, are there any issues or problems? It said no. I said, okay, do it. Like 45 seconds later, there was Ian, my Hermes up and running. So that's what we're talking about, having hands. That's what we're talking about, that time saving.
Yeah, well, it did it better because I was using co-work and it did it. And then I'd say, this is the...
Yeah, but see, that doesn't have the hands. Doesn't have the hands, yeah.
I agree with you. I now have Hermes up and running. Now, again, a difference between you and I is you don't mind, nor does it bother you to do work in a terminal session. I find terminal sessions almost as painful as having an uncomfortable bout of hemorrhoids. But I was able to get Hermes up and running in a terminal window. And the next thing I had it do, because I asked Hermes, I said, write me a script that I can execute every time I load my computer to open some terminal windows and whatever, and get it to display and operate in my browser. So now if I go to my local host 3737, every time I turn on my computer in the morning, Hermes fires up, it does that, and now my interface to Hermes is in my web browser, and it's black on white. It's not this white on black, and it's not a terminal. I mean, it's still fundamentally a terminal. It's just, to me, more user-friendly and visually friendly than what I was used to.
And this is what you were talking about before. I would never say to my AI, write a script. I would say to my AI, I want to see this in a browser, and I want to see it fire up every time I reboot the machine. I don't want to be working in this terminal. And it might choose to write a script, or it might choose to write,
mine wrote a script. I used the term of what it did.
You told it to write a script, so it did. But I just tell it what I want. In fact, I'm talking now with my tech guy. I have a full-time tech guy on staff, and we do a lot of databasey stuff, and we've got some stuff really working well that we'll talk about if time allows. But I asked my AI to write an architectural brief about what that big database should look like, and it did that, and I shared that with my tech guy, and he wanted some things different, and some, I don't like that, I do like that. But then I came back to AI and I said, tell me what you think I want. And it wrote a page of, an A4 page of what the project was supposed to achieve, and it was wrong. And
okay.
I hadn't adequately told it. So much like we do this with human staff, where we instruct them what to do and then we ask them to feed it back to us. That's just basic good communication skills, isn't it? Where you tell someone what to do and then you ask questions to make sure they understand it. You do that with your AI, and you make sure they understood, because they'll deliver what they said they were going to deliver, but it may not be what you think you asked for. So yeah, that's been an interesting experience for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have you managed to get this software to do something for you now from beginning to end that makes your life easier in your business?
Yes, with the prompts and things that I was doing and the connections that it has, because there's kind of like an MCP register, and you can go out and find the different connections, and it says, yes, so we got your connection to this, we got your connection to this. And sure enough, they had a connection to HeyGen. So I asked it to do some research and to write me a script for HeyGen using some parameters that you had said about how many B-rolls and how many was your picture of your face on the screen and blah, da, 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 da. And I sent it off to go do that, and it did that. And it came back without the B-rolls in it. And I said, go back and fix this with B-rolls in it. It said, nah, I can't do that. The interface that I use wouldn't allow me this and allow me that. You should do it. Here's how you can do it. And I in frustration yesterday, I gave up and I said, just give me the damn script. I went into HeyGen and used my usual procedure that I used and created my video, which had all the roles and everything and my voice and all of that. So I'm still struggling I had that same challenge with Cowork. I now still have that same challenge with Hermes.
Well, you've led very nicely into an opportunity for me to brag about some of my experiences today. For the first time today, I went into YouTube and found 6 videos, shorts, that I have not touched since before the weekend when I approved scripts for them. So I approved the topics, then I approved the scripts, and then the AI has done the rest while I've been away over the weekend. It wouldn't have taken it long, I don't imagine. It has made some mistakes, but the 6 that are up there, I've accepted. They're okay, and it has talked to HeyGen to make them happen, and then it has downloaded them from HeyGen and then uploaded them into YouTube, and then done the usual stuff you have to do to get a video on YouTube, and push the publish button, and it's there, baby. It's there. So this is one of 3 or 4 things that we're doing now. It checks my email every couple of hours.
Yes.
And tells me what I need to deal with urgently and gets rid of the ones that are clearly spam. It doesn't delete anything. It just marks them red. I've connected it to my Xero. So, and you know, I don't love accounting, but I can now ask questions of it about what's happened in the Xero. I've never been able to get my staff in the history of managing people to use a CRM as much as I would like them to. So we got rid of the CRM. We just told it to go and get everything out of the CRM and then build a database to replace it.
Yep.
When I said we need an interface for that now, Jake said to me, I am your interface. And that took a bit of getting explained. But basically, if you've got a business card from someone you're talking to and you want to put it in the CRM, you take a photo of it on your phone on WhatsApp, you send it to Jake, and it appears in there. And then we do the same thing with our petty cash records. Just take a photo of the receipt. If he hasn't got enough information, he'll come back and ask you, what's this business card for? Are they a prospect? Are they a lead? Are they a contact? Whatever. Or we've already got them in the database, but the phone numbers are different. Are yours more current? Should I update them? All that sort of stuff. Yesterday, I was meeting with a prospect in Manila, and when I left the meeting, I turned on your app, actually, Preserver. Preserver is a free app that Monty has. That's I don't know what you call it, a journal, or it's a program that allows you to record stuff, including photos and locations and maps and GPS coordinates and videos and text. And it's exceedingly private. Monty doesn't even know who's downloaded it. You don't have to log into it. It's on your phone. You can put a PIN number on it if you want to, but I don't bother. And then when it saves all those things, you can tell it to put them on your cloud database, cloud drive, wherever it is, or you can keep it on your own phone, or you can save it as a zip file and send it to any of the things you connect with. So got out of the meeting, took a photo of the building to record where I was. That gives me the GPS locations. Hopped in the car. I wasn't driving, by the way, and then dictated 15 minutes worth of notes about what happened in the meeting, because the meeting was booked as a half-an-hour meeting, but it went really long. It was a great meeting. I enjoyed it a lot, and then pushed upload all that stuff. Jake pulls all that stuff down, and he goes through the what I've spoken about is converted somewhere in the process. I'm not sure whether it's your app, Monty, or whether it's my app. One of them converts it to a text, and then it goes through the text and breaks it up into bits to determine what should go in the CRM as notes for the meeting, what needs to go onto my to-do list in Google for me to do stuff, because I've made commitments to do stuff, what it needs to update, So between Preserver doing all this stuff and Jake doing all the rest of it, it's the best set of records I've ever had. And my staff actually use it because they don't have to know anything about a CRM. And in fact, the biggest problem I've had is staff saying to me, what are the instructions for the CRM? How do I use this? How do I add something? Where's the documentation? And it's like, don't ask me, ask Jake. What do you mean?
Jake takes it all. Now,
go to Jake and say, how do I add something? And he'll tell you exactly how to do it. Sorry, go on.
You did allude to the fact that you took all the data out of your CRM and put it someplace else.
Yes.
Now, and I'm sure Jake did that for you. Did Jake do that in a spreadsheet? Did he do it in a SQL server? What did he decide or to store it in?
He's done it in two places. Well, three. Yes. At my request, he put it into a spreadsheet. So that's easy for me to read. But he also downloaded and installed, with approval from me, a program called SQLite, so SQLite. And that runs on the Mac Mini. And he's apologized because it can only handle 1 million records. Oh, my goodness, only 1 million records. Oh, pardon me, there's my phone going off. And we told you it was live, folks. I mean, we weren't kidding. But also, I wanted it on a more substantial server, not for the number of records, but for the security and for the backups and all the rest of it. So because I have a number of websites that run on servers on the internet that I'm already paying for, they all have MySQL on them as a database, which is a pretty serious grade. It's, again, open source and free, but it's pretty serious grade database. So he's created like 50 tables on there and has populated it with, I don't know, it must be about 3,000 or 4,000 client records and contacts and stuff. And he manages that. When I want to know who should I be contacting today, I go to Jake and say, who should I be contacting today? And he sends me back a WhatsApp message with the names. And I go, oh, sorry, I didn't ask you for enough. I need their phone numbers and their emails, and I need to know what I'm talking to them about. And he comes back with these messages with, 2 or 3 lines of text on the phone about the history and who they are, what we're talking about. And that brings it back to mine because my declining brain doesn't work like it used to, Monty.
But what I hear from that is, for an organization that has thousands of records, you said 3,000 or 4,000 in what used to be a CRM. You can decide whether you want to share the name of what that was. But the point is, you no longer need a CRM. Jake is your front end to your CRM, and the data lives on some SQL servers on the internet, and they're not costing you much, or they're costing whatever it is for your web hosting anyway.
Yep. And the staff, well, that server is $10 a month, and it's already also got a website on it as well. Yeah. The database just runs there, and he does maintain an up-to-date spreadsheet for the staff to look at, because people don't know what they don't know. And they're comfortable if they can run down a list of names and say, oh, he is in the database. Or one of the things I use it for is, again, my brain, when I'm saying, who was that guy we spoke to in Cebu? He had a something name, McSherry, McMasters, McMillan, something or other. And he was an Englishman. And I haven't tried to ask Jake a question in those words. What I do is go to the spreadsheet and say, sort this, filter this, and I fiddle with it until I find what I'm looking for, and then I can ask for it.
So because you're doing this, Wayne, and you no longer have those costs for software as a service that you had to pay for, can you ask Jake to build you a dashboard interface that could say, out of these 3,000 records, tell me who I've had interactions with in the last month of 5 or more times, and those that I haven't had any records with, and then create a dashboard as well.
Yep. What's more, he will add to that the data that we have from people that we've sent email to, because all the email ends up in that CRM as well. And who's due from
out, even emails that you've sent and received through Gmail or whatever your mail server is.
Yeah. Any emails that have come in and out of our domain end up in there.
Wow. Okay.
And so all of that's working pretty well. And to date, we haven't had any dramas with it. The biggest drama we've had is asking the wrong questions. I'm not going to ask Jake to do a dashboard for me. because I don't want to see a dashboard. I want
Right.
answers to my questions.
Right.
If I want to know who I should be contacting, who's most likely to be a sale, I'm just going to ask Jake, who is someone who's in our database but not actively with a salesperson or in a pipeline who I should be talking to. And he will come back and he will say, oh, here's the people who you've contacted most originally, who demonstrated most interest, who haven't been followed up. He'll do that stuff for me. Remember, they use AI to diagnose x-rays.
Yes.
And they do that by capitalizing on their ability to recognize patterns. And
Yes.
man, I think with a bit more training, my AI will be brilliant at recognizing patterns.
Well, and I would suggest that deletes the requirement for the CRM. I get that. I also use Xero for my accounting.
Yep.
And an interface of saying, here's like you said, you can take a picture of an invoice or a picture of a receipt and say, sort this out, and then don't post it to my Xero without me approving it, but it will do that. But I still have an accountant who also has access to my Xero, because when it gets to beyond just doing a monthly BAS or a few other things, there are more complex accounting tasks that I would not even be able to ask the correct question.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I have a bookkeeper who is an accountant. I have an accountancy firm in Hong Kong, and I have an accountancy firm in Australia to do all that stuff, and they all have access to it as well. But while I can use Xero to take a photo or scan the invoice and put it in there, I take a photo of it once. Jake puts it into the CRM. Jake shares it with the relevant staff who are at the meeting with me. Jake puts it into the Xero as a draft entry, and Jake sends an email to my accountant, my bookkeeping accountant, to tell him that there are drafts there for him to check. Now, every bit of SaaS software as a service, every one of them is going to offer you AI. And there's AI icons in Google Documents and AI icons in everything you look for, and everything's got an AI name in front of it. But I predict within a year, none of us will use those. All of us will use our own AI, and the AI will do. If I had shares in software as a service, which used to be a great business, I would be getting rid of it, because just like I told my CRM, my AI to rip my data out of the CRM and give it to me for free, you're going to do that with all sorts of things. In fact, why do you need Xero? Why can't your AI just create that? Now, right now, that's not practical. I wouldn't do that.
No,
but
me neither.
So much software that we pay subscription fees for are just going to not be necessary and disappear, because we're going to use our own AI to do it. And the new AI models are cheaper. I'm using DeepSeek from China for one of mine, and it's almost free. I think I've spent 14 cents in about 3 weeks, literally. So I think OpenAI and Anthropic and Google and these big Grok, these Meta, these multi-billion-dollar companies who are looking at this, I think they may have made some mistakes, because I'm not sure that they're not going to find the price of this. Like all technology, the price always falls. I think the price of this may fall so quickly it catches them with a lot of debt and no way to recover.
Well, and that's what the one of the advisors told me relative to Hermes. He said Hermes has had an uptake that now is catching up on Open Claw.
Yeah.
And he said, because you can use it for pennies and connect it with inexpensive AI models, it only costs 6% of something like my co-work.
Yep.
And I'm like, he didn't say 1/6, 6% of the total cost. I noticed, I read a document you published the other day where you talked about spending $700 playing with all this stuff.
Yep.
And that's a big number.
And I wouldn't do that again, and I wouldn't recommend anyone else do that. But I did spend that. And Hermes, I think, has, like all software in second place, it's fighting harder to get the first place. And I'm told it now does this thing with tokens and prompts and whatever, where the number of times it goes to the model to get data is about 90% better than Open Claw. But again, all you techie people out there who want to argue with me, feel free. I'm just repeating what I've heard, and I haven't investigated it. So,
and we all know that in another 4 weeks it'll be different again.
Yeah. But I think not just for us old gentlemen. I was going to say farts, but us old gentlemen. I think even people now, right through to their early 20s, are going to have to learn to keep up with this stuff or get run over by it. I really do urge you all. I urge my staff to do it. I think anyone who's a boss out there, you should be giving your staff a $20 a month account to just let them explore and fiddle around and learn what this does. Because I see the future as being AI augmented staff, not AI replacing staff. They'll replace some, the staff who can't use AI, the staff who can't figure out how to use the augmentation. They're going to be struggling to do other jobs. And I see this not just the low-end call center workers, certainly they're in trouble too. I see this as being a problem for doctors and lawyers and architects and engineers and all those highly paid professionals. And the reality is your Uber driver is probably better at using AI than you are.
Yep. Well, so, as you were talking with Open Claw, and again also with Hermes, it's got hands. But let's be honest about it. Those are digital hands.
Yes.
Now my son is a Sparky, which is an Australian term for an electrician, and he does field work. And I don't care whether it's Eric Schmidt or anybody else. They're saying the people that are in the field with hands-on stuff are going to be the last to go. They'll go eventually with robots and everything else.
And now that Elon's got his human form robots working on the factory floor, I think they're going to go a lot sooner than we thought they were 6 months ago.
Yep. Well, and even I was talking to my business partner, Jeff, who you know, the quality of the artistic abilities of creating images and music is becoming very, very popular.
Yeah.
And Avatar singer with avatars with songs being created and movies and everything else. Even the creative arts are going to be disruptive.
This is coming. Monty and I have lived through the advent of email and the advent of the internet and the advent of the World Wide Web and the advent of the cloud, and they all got progressively faster with each generation over a period of 25 years, 30 years. This revolution, this wave, is moving faster than anything I've ever seen before, and the wave is bigger, it goes deeper, and it's more dramatic. So I just foresee AI being an integral part of all our lives, and as always, there will be early adopters. There will be a valley followed the peak followed by the valley of despair when the hype is all too much and it doesn't meet it, and then it'll become mainstream. But that curve is going to be really compressed and quick.
I have no arguments against that. I think we can arm in arm walk down the street and say that. That's not a problem. I am sensitive to the time, and I know you have some future activities. So maybe we'll wrap it up this week, and we'll pick it up next week, and have no idea what we're going to talk about yet.
Yeah, we never know what we're going to talk about, folks. When we say it's live, we mean it comes up in our diaries. We turn the computer on, we start talking, and we hope a lot. So thank you for sticking with us. If you stuck this long, please show your appreciation with all of the things in the media that you're watching, whether it be bells or subscribes or likes or all of that stuff. It is what keeps us going. I am pleasantly surprised by the number of people we've got watching the episodes. Monty, given this is only episode 3, I'm a bit stunned at that. But thank you for your forbearance and for for sticking with us. I'm Wayne Bucklar. That's Monty Hipsch, and I'll say good night.
Now you got to find the button to turn off the recording so that we don't sit here like stunned mullets while you turn off the recording. I'm watching.